Jeremy Jackson with DripMadeLive. I hope you're enjoying the content, and if you like this, you can watch it happen live from 8 to 11 p.m. Central Time on most weekdays. You can find that at YouTube, at Rumble, or at X, all at DripMadeLive. So, thank you for joining us. Hit all the buttons, and enjoy the show. We are going to work on this big monster of a tourmaline and setting. Let's see if I can get it in here real nice so you can see. There we go. So we're going to set this guy up. Now, this is a 4-prong setting. Normally it'd be either a V-prong or a larger prong on the end, but this is a split prong on the tip. That makes it a little bit easier to set. I prefer the look of a 3-prong, but the 4-prong split prong will be pretty nice in there too. It's in yellow gold, so prongs will be a little easier to move. Quicker to polish, quicker to finish once we get the stone in. Yellow gold's a little bit softer than white gold. You have to be a little more concerned about runarounds with burrs. One thing I just noticed is we need to pay close attention to how deep we set the stone. Oh, I'm going to try to keep my hands out of the way there. There we go. We're going to be particular about how we set the stone because of the height. It looks like we're going to have plenty of room down below, so we'll set it down in there as close as possible to the halo. Alright, let's get it checked up and ready to work with. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now I've got to find. There it is. A little cone that keeps running away. Okay, there we go. All right. So, pretty big mounting here. Do like the look of this basket. Looks like it was very well finished. Let's talk about that. There we go. All right, this mounting is it's going to be 45 round diamonds in yellow gold, 14 karat. It is 0.76, so 3/4 of a carat total weight in diamonds, and we're going to set a 4.3 carat tourmaline. This color of tourmaline has a particular name. I want to say it's rubellite, but let us consult the book of gemstones. It is going to be It's been a while since I did gemology courses, but yes, reddish pink, sometimes with a violet tint. I think that describes our stone very, very well. So this is a rubellite. This is a becoming a very popular stone right now. I've seen a couple of tweets from the International Gem Society talking about rubellite. So I think it's probably a pretty popular stone this year. Gorgeous color. Red, violet, purple, just a hint of like a bourbon color. Kind of see it in the light there as we turn it around. Beautiful stone, and 4.3 carats. Okay, so let's take a look in our microscope at the mounting itself, and we'll see what kind of issues we might need to address before we get too far into this. So let me get our camera set up nicely here. Okay, I'm going to switch to the microscope, and let's take a look. Okay, well cleaned up. Got a little bit of an area here that isn't shiny yet. We're going to take a little bit of polish to that after we burnish it. This is a prime example of a place we would need to burnish. It's in a tight space. We might use the side of a graver in some of these areas, but here's my polished barrette file. I'm going to just go in here and brighten up with the point some of those areas that don't look fully polished. And once I go in with polish, they will brighten up even more significantly. Also gonna, it looks like they may have lasered a little bit on the inside of this. That's a popular way, especially as the laser welder gets more popular, of cleaning up the inside of a ring, is to use a laser welder and set it so that it shines the metal as you weld on it. You can use particular settings to get a really clean look on white gold, yellow gold, and platinum. Platinum loves the laser. I can't say that enough. Platinum just loves the laser. It molds well, it shapes well, it welds deep without a lot of power, and you can shine it up really nicely using a laser. Especially on areas that you just can't hit normally. Okay, so we've got that cleaned up just a bit. Let's test fit our stone. This stone might as well have been made for this mounting. Very nice. So we're going to use a particular strategy for these split prongs to make them at least seem a little closer to a shared prong, and we don't have the end of the stone sticking out in the middle there. What I see are some big inclusions across the center of the stone, but they don't really, looking at it from the top, you won't be able to see those. That's a very well cut tourmaline. Okay. So I'm going to be able to set this in pretty low. It's always good to take a good look at the stone all the way around and formulate a strategy for setting. It doesn't always go quite as planned, but it's good to have a plan going into this. So, I'm going to cut the point first. Then I'm going to cut the outside prongs. We're going to get the point in place, pinch those prongs together. They are spread, and they will be straight up and down once it's in place. And then we will, after we know that point is nice and secure, we'll bend the prongs on the back toward those in the front at the tip and tighten the stone that way. That way we're not putting an unnecessary amount of pressure on the point, and we can kind of control how much pressure we put on it from the back side. Got a little bit more room to work with those prongs out here because these are split. All right. Okay. There we go. Just a quick moment here. Okay, just making sure all our streams are still live. I am liking this new program. I think it's going to work really well. Okay, so I'm going to use a very small 70-degree burr. Got that right this time. I'm going to cut straight in at the height that I want that to sit. Oh, it's running backwards. There we go. I'm just going to go straight in between these prongs. This is a little bit different in how I would approach it if that was, say, a V prong or a larger prong. I'd treat it more like a princess setting. A princess is a square cut diamond. I'm going to go straight into the in between these. I'm going to make sure they don't run out. Okay. I like the way that's cut. All I'm doing here is I'm going to check to make sure we're not making contact in weird places on the tip of that stone. I'm going to have to cut it a little bit more to figure that out. I'm also going to take a quick look at how thick the girdle is on that tip, and it is not. It's a little uneven. One side is thicker than the other. Hopefully I'm keeping that in frame there. One side is a little thicker than the other. The keel is slightly off-centered. That's okay. Every stone is different. Every stone was cut by a human being, usually just with a loop, which is incredible. Okay. So we're going to cut for the thickness of this girdle and the height. Now I'm using a slightly bigger 70 degree than I could if these were two prongs not split like they are. I might opt to just cut for the tip, but I'm going to cut it a little bit wider so I can pinch those in and make them straight. So I'm using a slightly larger 70 degree. Now, just like a princess, I'm going to take that 70 degree and angle it away from the prongs. That should be a good bit of relief for that point. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit more room for the width of that point. And I'm also going to cut the top of the seat at a slightly shallower angle. Okay. So I think I've got that cut pretty nicely. Let's test fit the stone. I very much like how that fits in there on that side. I'm going to make a little bit more space in here for the point of the stone. So that we don't pinch it unnecessarily when we bring those down. Okay, I like the way that's shaping up. Let's drop the stone in here. Let's see what it looks like. I like that. Doesn't protrude too much. Got plenty of room to bring those prongs down and over the top. And it looks like we're matching the pavilion pretty darn well. So, I think we're getting pretty close to being able to set this sucker. At least on that point. I think I'm pretty happy with the way that's going in. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is at the height of the point prongs. Get a quick gander at the bottom of the stone. At the height of the point prongs, I'm going to go ahead and notch the other prongs. What I can see right off the bat is that girdle is huge and that pavilion is steep. So we're going to have to blow that out quite a ways for that stone to fit down in there. That's okay. Alright. Let's use our larger 70-degree burr. I'm just kind of eyeballing where that seat's going to line up. I'm going to give that a little nick where I think that's going to go, so I can use that as a guide. Oh, I don't want that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and put a little notch in here. Not going to go too deep. I'm going to try to maintain level with the halo. All I'm going to do is just match the height. I need to go a little bit lower. Okay. Got that at approximately the right height. Now, I know that the pavilion on this big old pear is very steep, so I'm just going to go ahead and angle those pavilion seats down about what I think is going to be necessary. One thing we might run into on this one, because of its belly, is it may contact the undergallery in a couple of these places. We're gonna try to avoid cutting into those, but if we have to, we will. We may relief that enough, just enough where it's off the stone. Whoop. Run away. That girdle is going to be thicker on one side than the other, so we're going to have to add a little depth to that. Okay. I'm going to cut slightly further in. In this prong. We're just trying to match the curve of the back of this stone. So, a very, what's the right word? Prescient, maybe? Piece of info that a jeweler gave me when I was visiting the Stellar convention. They do a bench jewelers convention every year. He said, you only need to know how to set 3 different types of stones. A princess, a round, and an emerald. If you know how to set those 3 stones, you know how to set every stone. Because a pear is just a princess point and a round end. A marquee is just 2 princess points with a round in the middle. A heart is just 2 rounds with a single princess point. You know, you can combine the different styles of setting as long as you know how to do the basics. You can apply them to the others. Well, I think it's very very good way to look at it. So all I'm doing here is cutting for, say, a round and a princess. Okay. I'm going to have to angle that just a hair further. Man, this one's already kind of shaping up to go in. I'm shocked at how fast this is going. Okay. I'm going to make a little adjustment to that seat. So that stone just drops right in without any fuss. Okay. I like how this is kind of shaping up. A couple of things I've noticed that I am going to have to address. That is the bottom seat for the point right here is making contact on the tip. I don't want that. I want to cut that away so that it only contacts on the girdle. Let's zoom out. See how this is lining up. We should be able to push that into place where we need it. Center it in that mounting. Let's take a look at the level. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to knock out that little flange of metal on the front that might prevent us from getting the stone in. Just going to take a ball burr. I'm going to relief for the keel. And then I'm going to go down here. Make absolutely sure we're not touching anything down there. That'd be a pretty common spot where you might make contact with the stone that you won't be able to see from the top once the stone's in. And if you weren't aware of it, you might put pressure on the keel. And that can be a bad time. All right. I like how that's working on the point now. That seems to match well there. I'm going to angle the top seat a hair further back. And then I just noticed one other thing. And that is the belly right here is contacting the undergallery. So we're going to make sure we cut a little bit away. It looks like it's a hair thicker on that side. The stone is a hair thicker on this side, on the pavilion side. So we don't want it touching too much. All right. Oops. Let's use a small A small 70 if I can find it. There it is. small 70. I'm going to clean up this seat. Just like that. Okay. Let's take off some of that excess metal there. Just a little zip with the graver. Okay. I'm going to use a ball burr, kind of a large one. I'm going to cut some of that undergallery away, only in the areas where it might make contact, just to make sure. That stone has plenty of room to sit. One moment here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take, this is just a little bit of a, it's kind of like a blue wheel on a stick. It is a stick of blue wheel. It's a rod polisher. I've got a kind of a coarse grit on it, and all I'm doing is just smoothing that out so that when I go to polish it, it looks a little more uniform. Okay. Test fit. Really like the way this is coming together, so I'm not going to do much more to it other than polish the seats, polish the prongs, and polish those little areas that weren't quite cleaned up by the manufacturer. Okay. Let's polish the prongs first. We're going to do that with a wheel brush. Just a little bit of our orange Murad polish. Polish down the middle of this. Just to make sure those prongs are nice and bright between them. Sides of the prongs are nice and polished. I've got these seats wide open. Give them a quick polish. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a good polish on the tops of these prongs. Don't want to polish those too much because it looks like they've already been polished quite a few times. Yeah. Such is the case sometimes with the manufactured pieces. Seen a few too many hands in the process and they take away a little too much metal. This one, it's not bad. But we don't want to make it any worse. I need that guy. Oh, we're going to do this in there. Micromotor. Okay. I'm going to go in here and polish the inside of the mounting. And in those areas that we burnished, just to make sure they're nice and shiny. Don't want to over polish down in there because we might over polish the shank prongs. We do want to make sure that's nice and dressed. And run that in the reverse angle, reverse direction. Should we get down in there nice and bright? Okay. I'm going to use a very, very small wheel brush. same polish. We're just going to run it on the very inside of this, just to make sure it's nice and shiny. Lightly get in here in our point prong seats. Oh yeah, it's cleaning up very nicely. Run it in reverse just to make sure we clean that up nicely. Okay. Feel good about that. All right. And blow out any debris. Okay. I like that. I like the way this worked a lot. Let's test fit our stone one last time. Okay. Like I said, we are going to bring the point prongs in first to give us something to push against for the back prongs. But we also want that in place so that we don't have to do any pressing on it, any unnecessary pressure. Oh. All right. So let's do that first. There you go. Let's brighten that up so you can see. And that's about as bright as we want to get it. Okay. I'm going to grab the back of that prong, the first one here. And go down and towards the stone. Same thing on this side. Working a little bit at a time. We don't want to make any drastic movements, especially with the tourmaline. I'm going to grab the back of one prong and I'm going to use it as leverage to bring this down just a hair. I can grab this guy and give it a little twist. Now we don't have to have these fully down on the stone, but I do want them to be in the right position. And gently work that forward. So when we push this from the back, I want to make sure there's no pressure on the point, only pressure on these two sides. I think we're about there. And then after we're comfortable with the stone and the position, we will bring these prongs down just a hair more to make sure they're tight. Okay. We move this prong back a little bit, so we're going to use it first. And give it a little twist as we work it forward. Feel pretty good about that. And give this guy just a hair more of a twist toward the stone. Okay, that's tightening up really well. Do a little trick here. Back that off a hair and work it back down. Make sure we have as much of that prong as possible over the stone. We don't have any major gaps behind it. Love it. Good about that. Feel good about that. Let's check the level on the stone. Looks like we are a little unlevel on one side, but we're going to fix that. The level front to back is great. So we're going to bend one of these prongs down just a hair further. Alright, let's see if that leveled it off. Almost. Let's give it a little room to wiggle, backing this side off. Okay, that is level. Centered in the mountain. So I'm pretty happy about that. Wow. I'm not too terribly concerned about the way this prong has bent in a little bit further than the other. It can sometimes happen. Just angle of the top of the seat, angle of the top of the prong. Same thing with this. When I cut those off at the level of the stone, you won't notice any difference between the two. It'll just be a ball on top of the stone at that point. What I am going to do is go back through here and make sure all of the prongs are making full contact on the stone. That one's good. This guy's a hair further off the stone than I want it. I'm going to grab him, give it a little wiggle, and move him forward a bit. And I'm pretty satisfied about that. Just a little twist there. Okay. Now I'm going to bring these down so they fully make contact on the stone. And all I need to do with that is just give it a little wiggle and push. Okay. That stone is tight. It's level. It is oriented nicely. Okay. Okay. I like the way that's set. Just noticed something kind of unusual about this ring. It is not exactly straight. With the finger. Kind of strange. Back it off so you can maybe see this. Well, we're going to take a good look at that from a different angle. Before I cut these off, make sure this stone looks nice. Yeah. Looks like at some point this might have got warped out of place. So, we can fix that. What we can do, is before we get too far into this, we can put it on a mandrel and see if it's round. If it's round, then we know we can take some other chances with it here. So it is round. We're going to get that tight on here. And I think you can kind of see that. The point does not line up exactly with the rest of the ring. Let's see. It's just a hair off. That may have had something to do with the manufacturing process, when it was in wax. Just a hair off is okay. So we're going to give that a gentle twist. That looks like it's all it took. Okay. A little strange. You encounter something new every day. Today it was weirdly warped manufactured mounting. So I'm going to set this on top of something flat. And see how it rocks. And boy does it. So we need to straighten that up just a hair. The way we're going to do that is using something flat. I wish I had noticed this before we got into the into the setting. We are going to take a flat hammer, lay it across the mounting. I'm going to stay away from the stone. And I'm going to take a rawhide mallet and give that a tap on top. And turn it over and we're going to do the same thing. Just a gentle tap. All we're doing is encouraging that to flatten out. Alright, I'm going to take a quick look in the microscope off camera. We may need to do a little bit more tapping just to take the bend out of that so it looks good from the top. Well, I don't know. I think that worked out well. So let's finish the setting up. Okay. One thing I'm going to do here is take this prong, angle it slightly closer in. That way it's uniform with the other prong on the other side. This prong needs to be just a hair further out to be uniform. I don't want to put too much pressure there because I could put pressure on the tip. You don't want that. Alright. Now let's cut these prongs off, finish her out. we're doing is cutting the tips of the prongs off. And we'll finish it out with a cover. This wants to flex quite a bit. It is a pretty big mounting with kind of sparse supports. Okay. Okay. Let's cut the back prongs off. Because this is a tourmaline, I don't want to get too close with the sanding disc. So I'm cutting them pretty short with the saw. I'm going to switch over. Nah, we can do this. Since that wants to flex so much, I'm worried about breaking my saw blade on that. Okay, see that's opening up. Let's give it a little flick. Okay. These prongs look good. It looks like it's in a good spot. Let's blow off the debris. Okay, we're going to take a file, our favorite file, our burnishing file. We're going to kind of pre-round. Well, let's take those down a little further with a sanding disc first, and then we'll pre-round the prongs for cut burrs. Alright, let's get a cut burr. Let's see if we got one that fits it well. I think we do. hair small. That one's going to be perfect. Just gently rounding these. Not taking them down too fast. We do want to stay off the stone because it is a tourmaline. And we have to be a little more careful about that. With the tourmaline over, say, a sapphire, so I usually work over the back of the prong. I'll let that do a lot of the work. We're not putting pressure on this. We're just... we might work it back and forth a little bit to get it to cut a little faster. But we don't want to put pressure on the stone, and we don't want to burn up our cut burr. Those are rounding out very nicely. And working from the back too. Take a quick look here. Take those down just a hair more. Okay. Let's do the back ones real quick. Probably could have cut those a little closer, just to save a little time, because the cut burr does not cut very fast. We don't want to be sitting here grinding all day with the cut burr, but also don't want to take too many chances with other abrasives around that stone. Now, as you can see, this is a dirty process. It's not it's not very clean. You're not going to keep your hands dirty as a jeweler. Just doesn't happen. I've been asked before, why don't you wear gloves while you work? Well, it's important to have that tactile feel. You gotta be able to touch something, not have any kind of barrier between you. Especially with metal like this. If I were to wear latex gloves, they'd be sliding, slipping all around. They'd be getting grabbed by the burrs. Yeah, my hands might be clean, but I'm probably not working as effectively as I could if I've got my hands covered by latex. Alright, those prongs on the back are still really tall. I think I'm going to take them down just a hair more before I try to cut burr those again. Yeah, I left them a little tall. So let's go to a file. See the front ones too. I'm just going to use the flat. Oh, what are you? No, we're not going to use that file. Oop. This guy. Just a flat file. Staying away from the stones. I'm going to take those prongs just a hair closer. And then hit them with the cut burr again. There we go. These I'm going to take quite a bit closer. Kind of using my finger, even though it's uncomfortable, as a barrier. To keep from getting too close to that stone. Last thing I want to do with the tourmaline is to rake a file across the top of it. Even worse would be an abrasive. Okay. Okay. Back to the cut burr real quick. Now those should go relatively fast. Let's clean off our debris. There we go. That rounded out very nicely now. And it's not too tall over the stone. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Let's make sure this one's the same. Let's make sure those are at about the same height. Yes. So we can come down just a hair more. Okay. Let's do the same thing with these two real quick. Make sure these match really well since they're right next to each other. Here we go. Okay. Okay, with this one, we're going to do a quick polish on the prongs, and it'll be ready to go. wheel brush. I'm going to stay away from the tops of these facets because tourmaline being a slightly softer stone on the hardness scale, it can't take a polish like a diamond or a sapphire. You'll soften. Yeah, there I go again. You'll soften the facet junctions, and it'll look a little bit off. It'll look a little watery if we were to run over it with a bunch of polish. So we're going to stay off the stone as much as possible and only hit the tips of the prongs. Still want to make sure we get it nice and shiny. Very careful not to hit the stone as much as possible. That's one reason I like the greasier polishes for something like this. The Mirard is very greasy. It sticks to your brush, but it also sticks to the piece. And you can kind of see, you get a better idea of where you're hitting. Try to keep those as uniform as possible. Switch to a slightly smaller wheel brush. Okay. Feel pretty good about that. There is one thing I'm going to address real quick. That's the position of one of these prongs. Don't want to take too many chances here, so I might just leave it. That's much better. All right. Feel good about that. Let's put the finishing touches on this guy. Okay. I'm going to polish the diamond settings a little bit. Just to brighten them up. Same thing on the shank. Okay. Polish the basket where I might have put a few little goobers in it when I was holding it with pliers or shifting things around. Wheel brush, Mirard polish. I'm losing my voice here. Just going to polish up and around the setting, and then I'll do the bulk of the finishing polish on our big polishing wheel. pick any little hiccups out of this thing. Alright, so I'm going to throw this in the cleaner real quick, but it's looking pretty nice. Let's go to a close-up. Just a little polish over it, but we'll throw it in the cleaner. Polish it up. It's ready to go. That turned out really nice. Pretty color. Looks good in yellow gold. And all that needs is a quick polish on the shank. That's ready to go out.